Hello, my most awesome project managers. I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to take a look at the Agile workflow. It's a simple workflow for Agile. Now, remember, first and foremost, Agile is a mindset. So this is not to be prescriptive in any way. If you're getting ready for the PMP exam and looking for stellar Agile training and help, this video is for you. Coming to you on behalf of agileprinciple.com, where we have a 4-hour bootcamp to boot you into shape for any of your exams, be it the ACP, the PMP, or any of the other ones. Let's get started with the workflow. It starts off with a product vision. Remember, this is an agnostic view to how things happen in the world of Agile. It doesn't follow this to the letter on every single endeavor, but this will help you with the line of best fit. So let me make it clear. This is not to be prescriptive, but before you move ahead on any Agile project, you should first have a firm grasp of the product vision. The product vision gives an understanding of what is being thought of by the stakeholders and the customer. The product vision should be encapsulated in an Agile project charter. In fact, if you open up the Agile practice guide, and I've got one in front of me, and you got to remember the Agile Alliance was part of this. So this is all good stuff, okay? The concept of an Agile project charter is not foreign. I'm going to read for you page 49. And it says, every project needs a project charter. So the project team knows why this project matters. It says, at a minimum, for an Agile project, the team needs the project vision or purpose and a clear set of working agreements. An Agile project charter answers these questions. Why are we doing this project? This is the project vision. Who benefits and how? This may be part of the project vision and or project purpose. What does done mean for the project? These are the project's release criteria, and how are we going to work together? This explains the intended flow of work. So talking about the flow of work, you get the idea that a project charter, even in the world of Agile, is important. So we have an Agile project charter, and then we construct what we call a product roadmap. The product roadmap helps us see how we get in from point A to point B. How is the entire endeavor going to unfold? This is where we begin to see details regarding the timeline at a high level, though, because remember, we don't go crazy with schedules in the world of Agile. The next thing that you should think about is the concept of a team charter. Now, a team charter puts the team on the same page. If you go to page 50 in the Agile Practice Guide, and I know I'm reading a lot of pages today, but let's go to page 50. Let's read real quick. Teams do not need a formal process for team chartering as long as the teams understand how to work together. Some teams benefit from a team chartering process. Here are some ideas for team members to use as a basis for their social contract: team values, working agreements, ground rules, group norms. The servant leader, together with the team, may decide to address other behaviors. Remember that the team's social contract, also called team charter, is how the team members interact with each other. The goal of the team charter is to create an agile environment in which team members can work to the best of their ability as a team. And that's why we have the team charter here. It's so important that for teams that have not worked together in the past, they are aware of this, they do this. All right, the next thing I want to bring to your attention is the concept of sprint planning. So getting into the work that has to be done, there is a measure of planning that needs to happen. Sprint planning is going to help the team solidify what is being done within the sprint. Now, if you watch my other videos about this, I talk about the INVEST acronym and how coming in here, your stories should be as ready as possible. They should meet the definition of ready. It should be independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small enough to fit within a sprint, and testable. And other teams could have more criteria. It doesn't always have to rigidly fit INVEST. It could be other things. Now, bear in mind, you already have a product backlog coming in here, okay? Your product backlog is going to be whittled down for that sprint in sprint planning into the sprint backlog. So keep that in the back of your mind. Then we talk about the daily scrum. Daily scrum is where we answer the 3 questions. What did you do yesterday to move us towards our goal? For the sprint, what are you going to do today to move us towards our sprint goal? And are there any impediments? You could also walk the board. The next step is backlog refinement. Remember that teams get stories ready for the next sprint. So backlog refinement is helping us get our stories to that invest criteria I mentioned, independent, negotiable, and so on. Next step is we have our PSI. When all is said and done, at the end of the sprint, we have our PSI, potentially shippable increment. We call it potentially because it doesn't mean we have to ship. If it's not featured enough, it doesn't make sense to ship. But we get to the point where we have our PSI, and the next step is a sprint review where the customers, stakeholders, this is where they review what we have created. We demo what we have done. The sprint review is not just a demo. There are other things that go into it. There's a review of what was done, what was not done, metrics, burn charts, burn up charts, and things like that. Next step is a retrospective. The PMI refers to this as, let's open the book, page 50. There's a big old drum roll here. Page 50. It says, retrospectives, the single most important practice is the retrospective because it allows a team to learn about, improve, and adapt its process. Retrospectives help the team learn from its previous work on the product and its process. One of the principles behind the Agile Manifesto is at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tuned and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So you get the idea. So the retrospective is a big deal. This is where the team inspects and adapts. Now, at the end of the retrospective, there's a question. Have we delivered all the value? Now, you don't have to get to the retrospective to know the answer to that. In the sprint review, you might already be aware, but the question at some point in time is all the value delivered? Have we achieved what we were seeking to? If the answer is yes, there could very well be a final release, a final closeout, whatever you wanted to call it. In the world of the PMI for the PMP exam, think about it as closing out the entire endeavor. It's come to an end. Whatever needs to be done, whatever resources need to be released, whatever documentation needs to be finalized is done. But if the answer is no, then you go back to sprint planning. That's why you did the backlog refinement. And bear in mind, all that we are seeing from 0.5 to 10 happens within the sprint enclosure. So Ken Schwaber and Jeff Sutherland talk about the sprint being a container for all the other events. So your sprint planning, your daily scrum, your sprint review, your sprint retrospective, they are all happening within the sprint. Bear in mind, there are other things that I could have shown here that I chose not to, just for the sake of the aesthetics of the image, but I could very well have shown you at some point before you get to sprint planning. There is going to be an insertion of a box that says product backlog developed. So just keep that in mind that somewhere up here, there's going to be the creation. And I'm going to read for you in the Agile Practice Guide in a second, but let's just put it here. For your records, the product backlog is going to be created. And remember, it is a living, breathing document. This is not going to be a one-time thing. This is going to live for the duration of the endeavor. And remember that the product owner has a responsibility here to ensure that the product backlog is constantly refined, not just in backlog refinement, but as necessary, as needed. This is a product owner thing. So the Agile Practice Guide calls it Backlog Preparation. So I really want to call your attention to PMI's language and what is in the Agile Practice Guide on page 52. It says, the backlog is the ordered list of all the work presented in story form, and it doesn't always have to be story form. It could be other forms. But to give you some frame of reference, they say presented in story form for a team. There's no need to create all of the stories for the entire project before the work starts, only enough to understand the first release in broad brushstrokes and then sufficient items for the next iteration. Product owners or a product owner value team that includes the project manager and all relevant product owners for that area of the product might produce a product roadmap to show the anticipated sequence of deliverables over time. The product owner replans the roadmap based on what the team produces. So this is a very important step. The basis for number 7, backlog refinement, and I'm just going to include this as a file. Let me make it a 4. 4B, just for context when you go back to look at it. Okay, and there are many other things I could have included in here. Yeah, but for the sake of the image, making it concise, we have not included the whole estimating stuff that happens. We've not included, of course, all the fun planning poker and affinity estimating potentials and the canos and all that stuff. We've not put any of that here. So bear in mind that there's a lot that happens on the back end, but hopefully this guides your understanding of Agile a little bit more. Again, it's on behalf of agileprinciple.com, your one-stop shop for 4-hour boot camp to boot you into shape in the world of Agile, regardless the exam you're doing. And don't forget, PMP exam immersion. This is at hpmexam.com. So if you're stuck, you need help, you need to get the full picture of hybrid, agile, predictive, then you can also grab our PMP exam immersion book. And all of this can be accessed from the parent site, Praizion.com. So down there on the left, you see the spelling of Praizion, Praizion.com. Go in there, take a look at what you need to help you on your journey for success. All right, I hope this helps. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Talk to you soon.